WSMN, Nashua's News and Talk, and WSMNradio.com.
Hello, New Hampshire. This is Karen Testerman in the studios of WSMN 1590 in beautiful downtown Nashua, where we hold these truths upon which America was founded. If you'd like to join the conversation, please call us at 816-0019. This hour is being sponsored by Mary Murphy, America's first independent Schwab franchise branch owner. I finally got that down, George. It's amazing. If you say it enough times, it comes out right. So, at any rate, as our first independent Schwab Finance branch owner, Mary offers financial workshops open to the public at her office in Nashua every other Tuesday from 6 to 7 p.m. There's no cost to attend, but you need to call her and talk to her about what the program's going to be and to register. So the phone number is 595-0581, 595-0581, and be sure you join her, because it really is good. And the other thing that Mary does on the last Tuesday of every month is she holds a money workshop. The whole purpose of that is to give women some financial background, make them financially literate, because a lot of times we're involved with our husbands, we let them take over most of the financial status, and then we find out, don't know as much as I need to know, and right now I really desperately need to have some strong grasp of what's been going on. So just be sure that you contact Mary, because it would be to your advantage. Our hearts and thoughts continue to be with the victims of the Boston terrorist attack. I call it a terrorist attack because that's exactly what it was. I don't know how many people are aware that there are two mosques in Boston. One, the larger one, is probably the largest on the whole East Coast, and the founder of that mosque was Abdurrahman Al-Mudi, who is currently serving a jail term for his involvement with Al-Qaeda and helping to finance. The other thing that he has done was to finance an organization called the Islamic Institute that is actually housed in one of Boston's sons that has been very involved with the libertarian movement and with the Americans for Tax Reform, Grover Norquist. There's some have been for quite some time some very outright concerns about Grover's involvement with the Republicans and with the mosque with Al-Mudi. Al-Mudi actually helped fund this Islamic Institute. So I urge you to go do a little research on it. One of the best places to start would be with Michelle Malkin. She wrote about this yesterday. Let's see, today's the 25th, tomorrow's the 26th. So yes, she wrote about it on Wednesday the 24th. In her tweet, it says, "Open border bedfellows. Rubio, Schumer, and Norquist, not a trio you often see standing together." So I would recommend that you go check that out, because it, as it turns out, one of the older of the two brothers that was responsible for the terrorist attack in Boston was actually going to these one of these mosques. He'd been involved with the imams there. There's some other questionable activity that even involved with the mother. I heard this morning that while the parents were on their way back from Russia, which is kind of, it's got all kinds of odd twists when you figure out that the parents came here supposedly because they were on leaving Russia because of fear of for their lives, but yet they moved back a few years ago, and now they're trying to come back to talk about or to deal with their son, and yet maybe mother can't come because she has some what was it, shoplifting charges against her. So here in the United States. So we're kind of wondering a little bit more about what was really going on. And then one of the other things that came up this morning that I was just absolutely appalled with, if I can find it, was that I did not realize, but apparently back in October of last year, the Obama administration actually pardoned or gave close to 4,591 young illegal immigrants, gave them a deportation reprieve. And it applies to people under the age of 30, and they would it's part of the DREAM Act, and it's a deferred action for childhood arrivals program that, I take it back, it was actually done in August, and there were 179,794 applications to Homeland Security, but they scheduled these people for biometric appointments, where officials will took the applications and their fingerprints to conduct criminal investigations on them. So, but at any rate, they managed to allow these people to stay here, even though they may have had some reason to deport them. And I kind of question this, because obviously this 26-year-old had done some things that needed to be deported. Was it because of this particular DREAM Act that he was still here? Some real questions to be raised on that particular thing. But today we are very fortunate to have in our studio a well-known guest in some respects. Hal Shurtleff is a veteran of the Army. He's a homeschool dad. He's got 5 young people, the 2 of them who are out of the house at this point, but are graduates of homeschooling, and 3 more along in the process. They're involved with the homeschool conference that's coming up in Massachusetts. And but one of the best things that they're involved in is educating our young people about the Constitution. And they run a Constitution camp every summer. So, Hal, welcome to
Well, thanks for
We
having
Hold
me
These
on.
Truths. Yeah, well...
Actually, it's called Camp Constitution.
Camp
is the name of the
Constitution.
camp.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, tell us, how did you get it started?
Well, about 5 years ago, there was another organization that ran a summer camp program, and that was discontinued. So a few of us that had been involved in that camp thought, well, this program was a nationwide program, about 8 or 9 of these camps. So we thought this is too important to just drop by the wayside. So we decided to keep it going under a different banner, under Camp Constitution banner. And it's a family camp where we do have unaccompanied minors from, say, 12 to 17, 18. But we also have whole families. 3 and under are free, which is nice. So, and it should be a family experience. Families should be learning these things together. And it's not just, sometimes we'll send Junior to camp for the week, and but the parents aren't learning this stuff, and they need to know it as much as the teenagers. In some cases, the parents may know a lot, and then they send their child to school and to the camp, and a lot of the child has a good understanding. In some cases, we get people that are almost a clean slate. They know very little about the nation's history and our Constitution and our heritage. So anyway, we have people from as far as Western Michigan, Virginia, that come to the camp, and of course people from Ringe, where the camp is located. We use a property called the Towanipi Christian Retreat Center. It's owned by a group called InterVarsity. And you were talking about the bombing. Now, I live about 4 miles away from where it actually happened, right in Boston. But one of the young ladies that was killed, the Chinese lady, Lu, she wasn't involved in our camp, but she was a regular attendee of that camp in Towanipi. And the pictures you see of her are pictures of the camp.
Right.
And one of our young campers, she was between the 2 bombs, and thank God that she was unhurt, uninjured.
Well,
so
yeah.
Things hit home. It's you hear these terrible things you hear about people, but there's some connection there. It resonates a little bit more. But
right.
Anyway, so this Our camp is it's all volunteer. We are a New Hampshire charitable trust. That's the official legal status of the camp, but it's all volunteer. And in fact, I'm taking a few days off, and my son and I will be at a homeschool show in Worcester, Massachusetts Hope, which is the largest homeschool show, I think, in New England. And we'll have a table there we'll be setting up tonight and tomorrow, and Saturday we'll have the various things we publish, and we'll be able to talk to people, not just about the camp, but we also like to do a lot of outreach. We've got this 10-question quiz on the Constitution, and we say, take the quiz, get a free copy of a little pocket Constitution.
Right.
And homeschoolers, most of them are pretty up on it, but there's a lot of things that, they don't not necessarily all staunch constitutionalists. So we like to think we're able to reach out to people and help them, and not just the Constitution, but a lot of the issues that affect us. So our camp, July 6th to the 12th, is this year's family camp. It starts on that would be a Saturday, and ends Friday at noontime, Saturday afternoon, July 6th. And I can give you what a typical day at camp may look like here. We at 6:30 is a volunteer swim. We call it a polar bear swim, although July is not too cold, not too terribly cold. Or we have an optional run. 7 o'clock is wake up, flagpole, where we do a daily devotion, reading from the Bible, prayer. Then we have breakfast, and the food is really very good. A lot of fresh fruits and vegetables, so it's we can accommodate people's diets if necessary. And we usually have 3 classes in the morning, each one lasting 50 minutes long. Then in the afternoon, we have a lot of organized recreational activities, and then we have some free time. There's a lake there, and there's swimming and fishing and canoeing and things like that. We will take a hike up Mount Monadnock, which is an optional thing. This year we're considering going to Bunker Hill and Old Ironsides. We may not show up, but we usually go to Concord Bridge in Lexington, Concord Bridge in Concord, and then Lexington Green, and a lot of historical.
Massachusetts.
Yes,
yeah.
Right, and visit a lot of historical spots.
Right,
And
the shot heard round the world.
That's right.
Yeah,
And
okay.
we'll have our own. Sometimes I'll do the little tour. Sometimes, like Garrett Lear, the Patriot pastor, and a friend of one of our instructors, Tom Moore, who's sort of a local historian. And then one of the last full day of camp, we take some of the campers out and we go around to the different towns and distribute copies of the Constitution to the business people in, say, Jaffrey and Rindge and other areas,
nice.
Or other important things. Last year we did a lot with distributing information about Agenda 21, that issue. So we'll probably do something like that this year. And then we have
throw in a little bit of Common Core in there.
Well, that too, yes. We have volleyball tournaments and chess tournaments and an indoor rock climbing wall and a ping pong table and all kinds of neat stuff like that. We also have a camp newspaper where the campers will participate. They'll write letters and they'll interview people, and we have cabinet room inspections, and we're looking forward not just cleanliness but also a patriotic Christian type of a theme, so that's something and there's a award at the end of the week. The classes range. We have instructors over the years. We've had New Hampshire state reps like Dan Itza, has been an instructor there over the years.
He's our constitutional. Many of the state reps refer to him as our constitutional representative. Hal Shurtleff is with the Camp Constitution, and we are going to take a short break. This is Karen Testerman with We Hold These Truths, and we will be back on the other side. And this is Karen Testerman with We Hold These Truths on WSMN 1590. This hour is being sponsored by Mary Murphy, America's first independent Schwab franchise branch owner. I guess I spoke too soon when I said I could finally get it out without making any bloops, whatever they are, bloopers. Call Mary at 595-0581 if you'd like to get in contact with her. In studio today we have Hal Shurtleff, who is running the Camp Constitution in Rindge, New Hampshire, every summer. And this year it's, tell me the dates again, it was
July 6th to the 12th. And we have a website for folks who would like to, it's
sure.
campconstitution.net, all lowercase. And you could visit the site and you can download camp applications. If you have a business and want to help help the young people of America learn more about our heritage and our Constitution, and offer a life-changing experience. We have a sponsors page. We have a YouTube channel. You can get a link to the YouTube channel from the website. You can see what we do at camp, some of our classes, some of the instructors, some of the fun things. Also, in the course of the year, we visit different historical locations and do some videotaping of other events. So you'll see a lot of that up there as well.
Cool. And now, you were telling us about the average day and some of the other things that you do. In your outreach, why are you? You're going out just in the Rindge area. Are you intending to expand to other parts of New Hampshire and
Well, what our
Massachusetts?
goal is, again, being an all-volunteer entity, we're just we pay the invoice. We're glad to pay the invoice and have money left over to other things. Camp Constitution, we have something called Camp Constitution Press, and we've published, co-published a book with Jen Coffey. We've put back in print something written by Noah Webster. Noah Webster, we all know him from the dictionary, but he also was he had something to say about everything. He was not at the Constitutional Convention, but he was across the street advising a lot of the delegates to the convention. And he also, in the late 1700s, gave a dissertation on refuting global warming. They didn't use the term global warming, but there were some of the folks who thought that the winters were getting warmer in the north, and they thought it was a good thing, by the way. They weren't worried about the world coming to an end, and like they do here in Nashua with their Nashua government getting into Agenda 21 in Ickley. But he realized after his scientific inquiry that there wasn't, and it was published, his dissertation was updated and published in 1810. It was on the supposed change of temperature in winter, and we thought it would be an important thing and it's available on Google Books, so but we reprinted that, and when I leave here, I'm heading up to our printer in Concord. All our things are printed right in the good old USA, just like the T-shirts, made in USA. We insist on that. There was an article written by Frank Vanderlip, who was one of the attendees at Jekyll Island, where the Jekyll Island where the Federal Reserve Bank was hatched, and he wrote a book, and the book was serialized in the Saturday Evening Post. In 1935, February 9th was the one where he sort of spilled the beans about the Federal Reserve meeting in 1910, and we were able to secure a copy of the Saturday Evening Post, an original copy, and thanks to Dragon Software, get it up in printable format, and we're going to making that available. And
interesting.
We just and we'll also be picking up a great 16-page article written by Tim Carter of Meredith, New Hampshire, called "Great State Future: The Real Facts." And we were able to we're going to get these into the hands of as many, if not every, elected local official in the state. And as part of our educational outreach, of course, on that. But it didn't finish the whole day. After we have dinner, we may have a few other classes, and then we have a campfire, where the campers and staff get together, and I brought the campfire songbook. We sing some of the corny old-fashioned songs. We'll do skits. It's interesting too, because some of the younger people, it's not their thing to sit around and sing old-fashioned songs. But after a day or two, they kind of get into it. And we don't have people walking around with cell phones. The campers, they bring cell phones, but they're not walking around with them. We don't have any music. Nobody brings their radios, and no TVs going. So it's the camp is a very comfortable facility. It's not exactly roughing it by any stretch, but it's
it's quite a nice house on the picture. We'll try to post that picture
it's
for
a
you as well.
beautiful camp, and it's very well supervised. Now we have a lot of families, but we do have a very good standard of conduct that we uphold. And if we don't, you'd have sort of chaos. So and I think the parents appreciate that as well as the campers.
Right. Now, your code of conduct, for example, tell me what one or two of the rules are. Or maybe Nathaniel would like to join us on that one. But
there are certain things that aren't acceptable to wear, rock concert T-shirts and things of that nature. And the young ladies and the gentlemen have to wear, appropriate clothing. We have that on our website, the bring list, what not to bring list. And they don't go around with blaring radios, and of course today everything's a radio and a picture. The cell phone is a radio now, right? Only we didn't have to worry about 10 years ago. So we do want the campus to communicate with their families, but it's not like a constant texting thing. So
Okay.
they'll turn the cell phones over to their counselors, and then at certain times we allot that they can go ahead and call and what have you. But like I say, I guess half the people there are families anyway, a good half, maybe a little more. And we'll have, like, Dad might be a counselor in the boys' cabin, and Mom might have the little ones in another room. You know, in some cases the families all stay together. We even have a couple of hookups for people that bring trailers. Last year we had a family from New York, upstate New York, that brought a trailer right on the lake, and of course that price is greatly reduced. And our rates are pretty low. The high end is for the unaccompanied minor, it's $330, and it covers everything: food, lodging, material, the cost of the field trips. Everything's the only thing it may not cover would be incidentals, snacks they want to get. We have a book table, a bookstore, so they buy books from it. But we do have every camper gets, they'll get a copy of the Constitution. They might get a couple of books. They might get several DVDs, and so all the syllabus material is covered in the cost.
Oh, cool. And now, you do have some students that come solo without their parents and so forth. Yeah. And what is there an age range that you put on that?
We sometimes tell the parents with their discretion, because you might have a very precocious 12-year-older.
Right.
But we tell them, like, if we'll let them use their judgment. But usually 13 to 17 would be the 13 to 18 or so. would be that, and sometimes there'll be a counselor that brings his or her little brother or the little sister with them, so sometimes that's the case too. So it's a little easier to deal with. Yeah. So the big brother is the counselor for the little brother in the same cabin, so it works out okay. Right. So we know that it's funny. Sometimes we get the campers the first day they get homesick and they want to go home, and then the weekends and they're crying. And they say, how come camp isn't 2 weeks? I says, well, it's an all-volunteer. You want to find some more people that take another week off of work, be my guest,
Right.
But our goal, we do have some, I guess there are plans and then there are goals. I guess a plan is something you can do. A goal is something you like to do. And a dream is a goal that you're not going to be able to make. But we would like to see other camps like this around the country, whether it be under our umbrella or not. And we're offering, hey, we'll be able to help you out, get you started. And we do hope at some point to have our own facility, or possibility of a facility, where we would have a year-round type of program. But we may not have a year-round camp program, but other people, other groups and organizations could use the facility too.
Right.
So that's something that may not happen, but it could happen. And we've actually looked at a place in Western Massachusetts. We may be able to work with several other groups and do something like that. So we'll see. Let's see what God has in mind, what God has in store.
Exactly.
And I can tell you some of the instructors. I mentioned Dan Itza. We had Jen Coffey.
Jen Coffey's also a former state rep from the state of New Hampshire.
We co-published her book,
Guns,
Lipstick and Liberty.
Yeah.
And she's been an instructor. Garrett Lear, well known here in New Hampshire, the Patriot pastor.
The Patriot pastor who does
he was
a lot
in
of
Lexington. We were there with him this past April 19th.
Right.
We
for the that's the reenactment.
Well, the reenactment is always that marathon, the day of the marathon.
Right.
It may not always be on the 19th, but Garrett's always down there on the actual date of the event.
The 19th. I thought the reenactment was always done on the 19th.
No, because it's always that Patriots Day. It's always that Monday of that week.
Okay.
So whatever. Yeah, it's the same week.
I noticed that the IRS now has located their receiving offices for your tax returns down in another state so that they didn't keep running up against Patriots Day.
Oh, that's because they were at Andover, weren't they?
Right,
yeah.
They were at Andover.
And they always have a grace period, right?
Yeah, those of us in New England always had a grace period.
Yeah,
it was really nice. I guess they decided that wasn't fair to the rest of the people in the United States, so
one day,
we lost.
Yeah. So one of our featured instructors is a minister from Harlem by the name of Reverend Stevie Kraft. And he'd be turning 70 this year, and he's one of the most dynamic men I've ever met, and it's sort of unforgettable. In fact, another one of our goals is to do a biography of both Reverend Kraft and Garrett Lear, both very fascinating men.
Yes, yeah.
And,
now, do they all dress in period costume? Because I know
Garrett
the
does,
Patriot pastor always comes in costume.
Yeah.
So
but this year we'll have. I met a gentleman who's a reenactor from the Connecticut 5th Volunteers. militia, and he's going to be doing. And we'll have a gentleman from Western Massachusetts, Rich Howell, and he's going to be talking about Shays' Rebellion. And of course, Shays' Rebellion sort of led one of the things that sort of led into the U.S. Constitution, because of the way the tax was structured and all the turmoil that caused, and the Articles of Confederation. While it had some merit, it wasn't enough to really keep the strong but limited central government. Now, because we have a very powerful and unlimited central government from the original, when we had a strong but limited.
Right.
Strong, what I mean, was specific things that they can do and nothing else.
Exactly.
Everything else is left to the states.
Now we've sort of done a little backsliding to what the
that's
founding fathers were escaping out of Europe.
Last year we had Dr. Michael Kaufman speaking on the subject of Agenda 21. He's actually a real hard environmental scientist. And he learned that this thing was a fraud back in the 80s. He was part of the acid rain. He won't be here this year as an instructor, but we'll have a scientist, one of our local guys whose family participates. He's one of the signers of that global warming petition, the 30,000 plus scientists. He's one of them, Mr. Ron Pike, who has a local business here in the New Hampshire area, in the Nashua area. And let's see, 2 years ago we had one of the Weather Channel fellow. In fact, your co-founder lives here in Hudson. He'd be a great guest, Joseph D'Aleo, at some point. But we had one of his colleagues, and he gave a wonderful presentation refuting global warming. This year, Jack Kenney, the former Union Leader writer, we asked him to do he wrote an article in the New American magazine on the 16th Amendment. So we wanted him to do something on that topic.
That would be good, yeah.
We have another writer for the New America by the name of Tom Edlam. He lives in Taunton, Massachusetts. He wrote a great article, by the way, on this bombing issue, how the dragnet is almost never effective when it comes to police work.
Well, that is a point that I think is a lot of people aren't aware of. But while we went into this martial law lockdown and all the cell phones and so forth were turned off, once they lifted that,
they found
it was a citizen
within 10 minutes.
That went out to have a smoke because he'd been locked up for so long, and he was the one.
Not that we're advocating having smokes, by the way. Yes.
Exactly, but he noticed that something was askew in his neighborhood or in his yard, and went over to check it out, and he was the one that really called it all in. So all of that martial law was really in opposition to what our founding fathers really intended, which was that our homeland security was really the armed citizen, the one who was supposed to be there keeping a vigilant eye on
we weren't
what
a nation of people that hid in time of trouble.
Right.
Not that we were supposed to go out there and go out there with your pitchfork and look for the guy. But,
right.
But anyway, at our camp we have an entrance exam, a quiz really, and it's not so much to make you feel that you don't know anything. It's to say, okay, where are you? Because we do have some intermediate and we have an advanced class, so we have some structure.
And you don't want once some of the students have been through it, I would think you want to increase their knowledge, not hold them back.
That's right. And then we have, so we don't always want it. We don't have the same instructor teaching the same class every year, so we do have a little, a different take on different topics, what have you. And then we have we'll have a final. And the final is to say, hey, some people come in and they get a 10 on the quiz. I mean, you can get a 10 by process of elimination. Law of averages. Just check off the right. And we'll see some of these folks coming in with a 10 or a 20, leaving with an 80 or a 90, which means they've learned a whole lot in that one.
Wonderful,
week.
Yeah.
And,
so you are measuring to see if you're being effective, which is really something that we like to see at all levels of education.
And it's not just to learn, but we're trying to get the next generation of freedom activists.
Yes.
That's the important aspect. The leadership in the freedom movement, we don't have enough of them, and that's in our small way. We're trying to do that. And also, a lot of the adults learn a lot. I mean, their adults are learning things, and I learn stuff every year. I mean, it's amazing because we got such great instructors, and there are times when I can't sit in. I've got to run around. I got to do things. I would want to sit in and take in this class. Now, we videotape most of the classes, and we make them available on YouTube. So if you go to our YouTube channel, Camp Constitution, you'll see classes from from I think the first year we had some glitch. We had a professional guy and it had glitches. So we bring in our little unprofessional. We do okay with it. But
yes.
We have a lot of our classes, our instructors over the years, and so you'll be able to get a handle on what we teach there.
Okay, Hal Shurtleff is with Camp Constitution. This is Karen Testerman with We Hold These Truths. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back on the other side. But if you want to call and have any questions or want to join in the conversation, please do so at 816-0019. Well, welcome. This is Karen Testerman with We Hold These Truths in WSMN's studios at 1590. If you want to join in the conversation, call us at 816-0019. This hour is being sponsored by Mary Murphy, America's first independent Schwab franchise branch owner, and you really don't want to miss out on her classes that she holds every other Tuesday on at her offices here in Nashua from 6 to 7 p.m. You need to call her at 595-0581, 595-0581 in order to register. In studio today, we're very fortunate to have Hal Shurtleff, a veteran of the Army and a homeschool dad, and also the administrator of director. Okay, I get corrected on these things, but of Camp Constitution, held in Rindge, New Hampshire, and led by many of our New Hampshire and Massachusetts patriots. And so now Jen Coffey's book, by the way, former State Representative Jen Coffey, is Knives, Lipstick, and Liberty. And Hal was telling me
available on Amazon.
Yeah, it's available on Amazon.
For my Amazon account.
Besides being a participant in the Second Amendment Sisters, Jen also, as Hal is telling me, is quite a knife aficionado and quite well known for that. Now, if you wanted to join the Second Amendment Sisters to either become acquainted with firearms, to know how to handle the one that your husband or significant other just gave to you and you're not really sure how to handle it, or if you just want to go and do a little practicing, Jen Coffey and the Second Amendment Sisters are up at the Wilson Hill Pistol Club in Manchester the second Sunday of every month. So you might want to go check that out. It's 2asisters.org. 2asisters.org. Now,
the number, the digit 2.
Yes, it is. Thank you. It is. But I meant to say that, but I didn't. But at any rate, Camp Constitution is at campconstitution.net. You can find out more about it. You can get a little bit of a feel for it by going to YouTube too and watching some of the YouTubes on it. And so, Hal, you said you were helping to distribute information on Agenda 21, and some of our listening audience might know it as the Sustainable Communities Initiative. Yeah. So,
yes. Well, Tim Carter's article, he wrote it was 20 pages in sort of a 8.5 by 11.
It's a very good one. It says here's what it says, but here's what the real facts are.
So I met Tim in January up in Manchester when we had a Dr. Kaufman speech. He handed me. I read this. I says, "Wow, this is really important stuff." And I said, "You have this in PDF format." And then when I saw him again, I was up in Laconia giving a presentation. I met him the morning before the presentation. I said, I'd like to be able to reprint this in a booklet format, sort of like 5 by 7, and make it available to the selectmen and the city councils.
Is it?
No, this is what will look like. But I'm picking them up now.
Oh, okay.
Although it is available, Camp Constitution has a Scribd page. You go to our website, you'll see a link to Scribd. Scribd is YouTube for documents. There's things called SlideShare. There's a lot of others. And I just uploaded the final, the official, what it's going to look like. And we're going to get folks to hand deliver these. I mean, there's 220 towns and cities. And we had one of our supporters said, "I'll fund the project." I was trying to, everyone donate $5, $10, $20. He said, "Just put it on here's my credit card. I'll put it on my credit card."
Oh, nice.
And some people mean business. Their freedom. And he's away a lot. He's in the Middle East a lot working, but he means business. So and we mean business too. So.
Yeah.
So we're glad to do that. And I have a few other things here that I brought in that I'm going to leave with you, if that's okay.
Certainly.
One of them is actually another New Hampshire lady. She was not from New Hampshire, but she's up here now. Sally Humphrey. Back in the early 70s, there was a weekly newsletter that was designed to be read around the dinner table, before the meal or after the meal. History lessons, economics, like things like I Pencil, the famous free market classic. And so there was it went on for 2 years. So it was about 104, so these 108 or whatever. And we got the permission to reprint it. The entities, although the entity itself, it's like a subdivision, doesn't exist anymore, but it was copywritten. And we took the ones that dealt with the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, including one of my favorites, they signed for us, about what happened to the signers of the Declaration.
Oh, which is a phenomenal
story,
because when you realize that they said at the end of the at the end of the Declaration, we pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. They really did, and many of them were destitute when they died.
No defectors. Right. Nobody matured politically, is what they tell you now. When you stand for something and then when you get elected, you change your position. You mature politically, or something like that.
Yeah.
And so we have this, and
she had no titanium backbone anymore. That's the problem.
To say the least. Yes, exactly. They caved in. Is really more
exactly.
like it. So we have that in a little booklet, 8.5 by 11 booklet format, which is also available on Amazon, and we'll be having these at the Homeschool Show. And there's a famous essay by Robert Welch, the founder of the John Birch Society. Now, Camp Constitution is strictly independent. But we have Oath Keeper people, we have Tea Party people, 912 people. So it's different, but we're not
average liberty-loving.
That's right.
Americans, right?
He gave a speech on republics and democracies. There's a profound difference.
Exactly.
And most people will say we're a democracy. Well, the Constitution, which is, your owner's manual for freedom, the word's not there.
Right.
But the word republic is. Each state is guaranteed a republican form of government. It has nothing to do with political parties. People get caught up in political parties, but a republic is ruled by law. And when ruled by law, the rights of the minority. And when I say minority, I don't necessarily mean people of different skin color or ethnic background, but it's those who may not share the majority view of something, but their rights are protected.
Right.
And so we make that available.
You had the ability to have a real debate and discussion, not debate like we have in our presidential elections now, where I keep calling them forums. I wish they'd go back to the word, because that's really what they are. We don't take a subject and really have an opportunity to examine it.
It's really just
a
forum for sound bites.
Right.
And the person that has the cutest one-liner, oh, you're not John Kennedy. Oh, we'll win the election because he has the best comeback. And somehow that's really where it's at, the comeback.
Right. Yeah. So there is a difference between the republics and democracies, and the major difference I keep saying is that the republic is dependent upon each person taking the area or their families, whatever it happens to be, and taking responsibility for it, and really making sure that you get things right at home, and then you can go out and try to win the world. And so it is a lot about personal responsibility.
Well, if you look at layers of government, I used to teach Sunday school for the 5th and 6th graders, and they are the most profound theological questions you're ever going to get, right? And they're smarter than most adults too. But I'll say the first layer of government is self-government.
Yes.
Right. You get your own act in order. You don't worry about anyone else. The second layer is family government. The families. I mean, my family. We don't have to worry. If we have a problem, we call an ambulance or 911. But we don't have to worry about the state coming in interfering with our lives because we got our acts together.
Right.
And when that doesn't happen, some families do fall apart. There's church government, and churches historically, not so much now.
Right.
But they used to take care of their own.
Exactly.
And they were sort of the safety net. They were the welfare system.
Right.
And when that didn't work out, there was local government. They used to have food. The local towns and cities had the welfare system.
Well, that's still pretty much true here in New Hampshire, Hal Shurtleff. But the reality is that we still have the welfare office in town.
Right.
But many times we're overshadowed.
But it's all controlled by the federal level.
Well, we're not always, but because my husband was actually the welfare officer in Mount Vernon for a while.
Yeah.
And there were some times when he would say to someone, you know, there's another adult living in your household taking care of you and your children. Where is that person? And they need to come in and be part of this too. You need both need to be ownership. If you're asking the townspeople to subsidize what you're doing and help you out, you need to be responsible to those people. So you need to bring both of you in, and we'll have a discussion about it. And about he didn't always get them to come back, but then you know, the reality is that it all of the adults that are living in that household that are contributing should need to be partaking in the welfare.
But
system.
It was done local, and
it was
So that layer, so church, and then the local governments, and yes, maybe you know, for some things state and federal, but for very few.
Right.
And of course now it's totally turned on its head.
Exactly. You know? And as David Crockett said on the floor of the House when he was congressman, you know, all of you people out there know it's not your dollar to give. It's the individual's right to decide where his charity dollar goes. It's not government's.
Well, we also reprinted that the great story about Davy Crockett.
Oh, good.
The Sockdologer was the title of it. And I'm told there's a little bit of historical license in this article, but I think it's a great lesson where a constituent discovered that Davy Crockett was allotting money.
Well, he was kind of upset with him for allotting that money.
That's right. And he said, well, it's not yours to give. And there's another, if it's not yours to give, it's not yours to take. And we've heard this, well, if I didn't take, somebody else would have taken it. Well, so what? That doesn't make it right.
That's exactly right.
So when the federal government comes in and says, oh, if you do these things, like here's a plan that we're going to get rid of all your cars by the year 2050, there's tons of money we'll give you. Well, you know what? It's not yours to give, and it's not for us to take. It's just as immoral to take it as to give it. So,
well, yeah, and that's exactly that mind process is what's underlying Common Core, because the state's being in a little bit of financial inequity. If that's
you
what
mean
you
broke.
want to say. Yeah, broke is probably.
And states can't print money like the federal government can.
That's true.
And they can float bonds, but at some point they're not selling a lot.
Well, and at some point too, when you raise the gas taxes, you're hitting people not only in their personal travel expenses, but you're also hitting them in the pocket for their clothing, for their food, any other consumable that they have, because the manufacturer and the retailer just simply pass those costs on to the consumer. But the interesting thing is that same thought process about getting money was what was sold most of the state boards of education on taking Common Core, because Common Core was part of the race to the top monies that was coming from the federal government.
That's right.
And if you partake in if you want to compete for this grant, then you have to adopt Common Core and the data process, the data collection of 400 different points, which is really bad. But I digress. We need to get back to Hal Shurtleff with the Camp Constitution.
Well, there's another thing that we published recently
is
one of our field trips was to the Ringe Historical Society. By the way, you've got so much treasure here in New Hampshire. Some of these little historical societies are open one day a week. They've got so much to offer. I recommend, if you haven't visited your local, go visit. It's well, this one, I actually discovered that I had ancestors that settled in the town of Ringe back in the 1700s. So there's a real connection there between the town and Hal Shurtleff and the Shurtleff family. But they had these coloring books that they had available, and they were there since the bicentennial in 1976. They had a stack of them, and I looked. I said, gee, these are pretty interesting. I said, oh, yeah, go take what you want. And they were basically history lessons. So it wasn't just some silly coloring books to doodle, but they had history lessons, George Washington, Valley Forge. They had in fact, we found an error in the original. The statue, the Lexington statue. They had the right statue, the one that's in Lexington, but they said it was on the Concord Bridge. That was two different statues, but we made that correction. But we got the permission to reprint it, and when we're at these information tables, a lot of young people come by, little ones, and a 5-year-old probably is not ready to understand the Constitution, but you give them the coloring book, and so that's what we use as well. So
nice.
So it's a nice. Now we have a little one-page spoof. It's what it is. It looks like it's a modern-day news story, paramilitary extremist riot, and it's actually a story of the Lexington battle.
Nice.
Yeah, so,
very good.
We give it out when we'll give it away when we say General Gage, and then people realize, okay, then this is.
So now, do you have something about Hannah Dustin in there?
Oh yes, Hannah Dustin. In fact, she's one of. I'm medicinally related to her as well. We actually got the booklet, a little booklet about her. We put it up on our Scrib page, so that's available on our. Go through our website, you find a link to it.
Right, Hannah Dustin. We New Hampshire and Massachusetts share her statue because there's only two of them.
That's right. Yes,
one's
that's right.
in New Hampshire, up by where I live now,
Haverhill,
and the other's in Haverhill. Right.
Yeah, we also try to highlight some local history, and we took a field trip to the Uncle Sam house, where Uncle Sam Wilson, and also a lot of the famous female heroes of the heroines. The famous the militia in Pepperell. There was an all-female militia in Pepperell during the War for Independence, and I get a little mental block, but there's a bridge where she had actually the head of it, and her ladies stopped a patrol, and we wait to emphasize those kinds of things. And also Prince Estabrooks, who was a slave, who was one of the Minutemen that was wounded at the Battle of Lexington, and we sometimes visit his gravesite in Ashby, Massachusetts.
Well, Hal Shurtleff with Camp Constitution, it's been very nice to have you on We Hold These Truths. If our listeners want to get in touch with you or to sign up for the camp, or what do they do?
Well, they can go to the website, and there's an address in North Carolina. Don't let that scare you. That's our camp manager who used to live in Ringe, but it's actually in New Hampshire, so that don't make no mistake. But go to the website. You can call me directly if you like. So the website's campconstitution.net, and my number is 857-498-1309. We have two Facebook pages, Camp Constitution, and I won't tell you why we have two, but we have two. And you could get information about our camp on the two Facebook pages as well. So.
And they're under Camp Constitution?
Camp Constitution, yes.
Now, give us that phone number again.
857-498-1309.
So I'll put that up on my Facebook at Karen Testerman.
And, people can register the day of camp, although obviously the earlier the better. And we do have some funds available for those worthy people, and that's why we have. So anyway, check us out. I think it'd be
for scholarships and
yes.
Oh, very, very good. Well, We Hold These Truths is brought to you by Mary Murphy, and don't forget, it doesn't take a majority to prevail, but rather an irate, tireless minority, keen on setting brush fires of freedom in the minds of men. And I hope that you will join me as being part of those who are setting those brush fires of freedom. This is Karen Testerman with We Hold These Truths. On Monday, we will be back in studio here between 10 and 11, and we hope that you have a wonderful weekend.